I will get going, but I'll keep an eye and keep people being allowed in. So good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the first Parks Institute event of 2025. I'm delighted to welcome you to this event, which is titled Researching Belarusian Jewish History in Impossible Circumstances. Tonight, we welcome 3 speakers, and we're combining members of the Parks Institute team with members of the Belarusian Jewish Cultural Heritage Centre, and they will offer a presentation of the prototype of the open lab for a Belarusian Jewish museum, and we will also get to see the first completed object for the digital exhibition, which I'm really excited to see. Now, before we begin, just some really quick digital housekeeping. This event is being recorded. You will have had that warning when you joined us, but just to let you know, if you don't want to be included in the recording, please turn your camera off. Please keep your microphones off during the presentation. There will be an opportunity for questions at the end, so you can join in then. We'll be having the Q&A. If you do have questions throughout that you'd like to pop in the chat, that's fine. I will pick these up during the Q&A, or alternatively, you can just raise your hand at the end. We've enabled captions this evening, so you can enable them at the bottom of the screen with the show captions section. And you can also turn them off in the same way. And finally, just if you do have any questions, you can drop me a message on the chat. You can send us a private message and I'll do my best to help. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our 3 speakers. So first we have Claire Foll, who is Professor of East European Jewish History and Culture here at the Parks Institute at the University of Southampton. Claire specialises in the history and culture of Jews in Eastern Europe in the 19th and 20th centuries. She is interested in the inter-ethnic relations in the Western borderlands of the Tsarist and Soviet empires, and more specifically Belarus. In her first book, she explored the development of the Vitebsk art school in the context of the Russian avant-garde of the quest for a Jewish art. And in her second book, she looked at the relation of Jews of the Belarusian provinces to the administrative, political, and cultural idea of Belarusia. She has published many articles on the political and cultural interactions of Jews and Belarusians in literature, art, cinema, and scholarship in pre-revolutionary and Soviet Belarus. We're also joined by Maya Katz-Nelson, who is founder and curator of the Belarusian Jewish Cultural Heritage Centre. Maya is cultural producer and curator with over a decade of experience in developing multidisciplinary international projects. She holds an MA in Museum Cultures with curating from Birkbeck University of London and a degree in journalism with expertise in audiovisual media and PR. She currently leads the Virtual Jewish Museum of Belarus project. Since 2011, she has organised 13 major international exhibitions, including collaborations with national museums, initiated and supervised cultural, educational and creative projects, such as the Belarusian Jewish Festival and the Laboratory of Jewish Heritage in Belarus with the Goethe Institute. And last but not least, we have Grigory Kaifetz, who is project curator and serves as project manager and digital curator, specialising in cultural and educational projects across XR, web and mobile platforms. He leads the digital product development for the Virtual Jewish Museum of Belarus initiative, crafting immersive experiences that blend technology, 3D modelling, restoration, historical research and storytelling. Active in informal Jewish education since 2013 and cultural project curation since 2018, he has 9 years of experience and expertise in product and brand community building, influence marketing and social media, bridging creativity with technical execution to deliver engaging digital solutions. So as you can tell, we're joined by a great team of speakers who I will now hand over to start the presentation.
Thank you so much, Katie, for the nice presentations and introductions. I wanted just to say a couple of, remarks before we start. So as you can see, it's a collective presentation reflecting the collaborative nature of the project. And we will start with a general introduction of the project and outline the challenges and the aims of the project, and then show the work in progress and the first digital results and digital products. So the prototype and the virtual reconstruction of a synagogue. And finally, we will share plans for the future development of the project. And the second remark is that it's not a traditional research seminar in the sense that we are not presenting research results, but rather work in progress. And the first result of a project that has very strong public knowledge, outreach, or enterprise emphasis. So there is no new knowledge created in a traditional sense, but rather ideas and exploration of new ways of stimulating research on Belarusian Jewish history, and also creating innovative ways of engaging with this research. And we are very much looking forward to hearing your feedback and your ideas about what we have done so far and about the next stages. And I will pass on now to Maya, who will talk about the emergence of the project.
Thank you, Claire. Hello, everyone. My name is Maya Kasnilson, and I'm honored to share our work with you today, together with my colleagues, Claire and Grigori. Before introducing our mission and the approaches we've developed, it's important to first outline the broader context that inevitably shapes the work with Belarusian Jewish heritage, a heritage that is vital for understanding Belarusian and global Jewish history and identity, heritage that has profoundly influenced cultural, artistic, and political developments, yet has been nearly erased. Fragmented by waves of immigration, devastated during the Holocaust, and marginalized by Soviet narratives, it remains largely invisible and understudied both in Belarus and on a global scale, with no comprehensive dedicated museum to address its preservation and interpretation. This is the backdrop against which the Belarusian Jewish Cultural Heritage Center was established in 2019 with a mission to address these glaring gaps in public awareness and preservation efforts of Belarusian Jewish history and culture, aiming to develop a full-fledged museum. I won't go into the details of the projects shown on the screen, rather describe our strategy and path. If you're interested, you are welcome to visit our website for more information after the presentation. So from the outset, we understood that achieving these goals required creative, integrative approaches. The absence of this topic across cultural programming, education, and public discourse meant that starting with the creation of a museum building wouldn't be enough. We needed to present this complex and often misunderstood subject in ways that would break barriers and could resonate with contemporary audiences, fostering a sense of belonging to its heritage. Our approach involved developing new and collaborative formats that went beyond the limitations of a single institution. As long as it was possible, we successfully implemented this strategy, carrying out impactful large-scale projects in various spheres and platforms, including national museums in Belarus. We actively set up local and international partnerships, reinterpreted and reimagined this heritage through artistic and interdisciplinary collaborations. We also explored potential museum concepts through a multi-layered two-year program in partnership with the Goethe Institute, which included workshops, exchanges with international colleagues, and pilot digital projects. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, we recognized the unique challenges posed by Belarusian Jewish heritage, the neglect of remaining sites, the dispersal of artifacts, oral histories, cultural knowledge, and expressions across the globe, and the difficulty of physically centralizing as well as restoring heritage objects. So this foresight led us to prioritize digital solutions early on, not only as a practical necessity, but also as a way to ensure our work would reach a global audience. However, beyond raising awareness and developing cultural projects, it was clear that creating an institution such as a museum required a strong academic foundation, supported by leading historians and researchers in the field. Yet how could such a network be built in a situation lacking dedicated institutions or research faculties and with very few academic specialists within the country? A pivotal moment in addressing this challenge came when we met with Claire Foll in 2019. We discussed the need to foster and encourage research in this field, consolidate existing studies, and connect experts to build a comprehensive understanding of Belarusian Jewish heritage. This vision began to materialize in summer of 2021, when we organized the first international conference on the history, culture, and heritage of Jews in Belarus. Despite being held during a time of significant political unrest, the online conference succeeded in assembling an exceptional academic committee and garnered widespread attention. The event also carried considerable risks given the turbulent political climate and its partnerships with Western institutions. In the following months, the situation only worsened as repression intensified, and by 2022, the regional war that war threat created additional barriers and deepened Belarus cultural and international isolation. On top of these challenges, the center's team, like many other Belarusian specialists, had to leave the country, scattered across the world. And this added another layer of complexity to navigating geopolitical tensions and continuing work in exile. Nevertheless, the academic network established during the conference, along with the center's accumulated partnerships and experience, provided a foundation for continuing and advancing our mission. With that, I will now pass the floor to Claire, who will elaborate on the urgency and importance of academic research in Belarusian Jewish history and heritage.
Thank you. So, yeah, I will briefly outline why it is so important and even urgent to support and stimulate more research on Belarusian Jewish history. So Belarus is historically one of the centers of Eastern European Jewish life. So you can see on this map, which is in French, I'm sorry, but you can understand that the communities created later are in orange. So basically, Jews settled in Belarus and Lithuania's cities from the 15th and 16th century on, and then they went further east and settled in the small private towns created by the local nobles from the 17th and 18th centuries. So they created what is called shtetls. So as Ukraine, Poland and Lithuania, Belarus was host to a growing and prosperous Jewish community thanks to the latifundium system or arenda system. So basically the Polish or local nobles rented out the management of their estate and privileges to the Jews, who paid a yearly fixed rent to the landlords and who collected taxes on mills, bridges, alcohol making, etc. So basically Jews became an important link in this feudal economic system. They were the intermediaries between the peasant population and the aristocracy. They were granted local autonomy and they developed religious and communal institutions. This shtetl culture continues to thrive for a few decades after the annexation of Poland by the Russian Empire at the end of the 18th century. So Belarus became part of what is called the Jewish Pale of Settlement that you can see in yellow on the map on the left on your screen. And although there were restrictions imposed on the Jews in relations to their occupation, to their place of residence, to education and clothing, forcing them to assimilate, they managed, particularly in Belarus, to maintain a very rich religious life. And Belarus, as you can see on my French map on the right, was home to some of the most renowned synagogues and yeshivas, in particular the Volozhin and Mir yeshivas. And it was a center both of traditional Judaism, and you can see my little books on the map in which color? In blue, but it was also home to or the birthplace of the Lubavitch or Chabad Hasidism, and you can see it in pink on the map. Belarus also became, towards the end of the 19th century, the cradle for modern political parties, Bundism in particular, socialist Zionism, but also Zionism. The density of the Jewish population was the highest in the Pale of Settlement, 14%, but reaching over 50% of the population in most cities and small towns. Several Jewish writers or intellectuals noted in their autobiographies and writings that they had the impression that they were living actually in a Jewish country and that the non-Jews represented the minority group. Chaim Żytlowski, for example, shares this impression in his autobiography. Belarus was not spared by pogrom, but they were less violent than in Ukraine or in Poland, due, in my opinion, to this demographic weight of the Jewish population, and also to the increased social stability in the country and slower processes of modernization and urbanization than in Ukraine. In the interwar period, the Jewish population in Soviet Belarus maintained more than in any other part of the Soviet Union its traditional way of life, with Yiddish, Bundism, and clandestine religious practice still prevalent in the shtetls of Soviet Belarus, but also in Minsk. So what I wanted to show here very briefly is that to some extent, Jews in Belarus had a stronger, more traditional, but also more national sense of identity than Jews in Ukraine and Poland, where more Jews lived in big cities and where they went through assimilation more quickly. This rich Jewish life in Belarus has, however, not received the academic or public attention that it deserves. Initially, it is due to the fact that the Russian Jewish historiography was created by Simon Dubnov, who was quite Russo-centered and who neglected the peripheries. Following Dubnov, many historians wrote about Russian Jews as if it was a homogeneous entity, paying very little attention to regional differences and to the borderland until quite recently. After the invasion of Ukraine 3 years ago, many scholars realized and criticized this Russocentric trend in the historiography of East European Jewish historiography. However, in spite of this realization and in spite of this course to decolonize and to decenter Russian and Jewish studies, there is still some contempt for this region, which is still seen as secondary, as rural, as less interesting than other peripheries. Secondly, the lack of scholarship is also due to the fact that Belarus has been the region of Eastern European most devastated during the Second World War. Many archives have been destroyed, but also tangible heritage has suffered. Stalin's persecution of Jewish culture between 1948 and 1953, as well as the increasing assimilation of Soviet Jews after the war and the downplaying of the Holocaust in the Soviet narrative of the Second World War, have also contributing to the marginalization and invisibilization of the history and heritage of Jews in Belarus. Since the independence of the country in 1991, there has been a renewal of the scholarly and public interest in this history, but it has also slowed down in the last few decades. The law adopted by the Republic of Belarus in the aftermath of the protests in January 2002 that limits the use of genocide only to the Belarusian people and subsumes the Holocaust in the so-called genocide of the Belarusian people creates additional obstacles to the scientific work on Jewish history and Holocaust studies in particular. So Jewish studies have not been institutionalized in Belarus, partly for political reasons. So the result is that students or colleagues who wish to research Jewish history struggle to get institutional support or the appropriate training, or to submit and even defend their thesis. There is therefore a need to stimulate research among Belarusians, to train young scholars, but also to support existing researchers, amateur professionals, and in particular, there is a strong interest among amateur people, among the civil society in Belarus, that we need to support. And this is really one of the aim of the Open Lab and of its research section. So Jewish heritage in Belarus also remains one of the worst kept Jewish heritage in Eastern Europe. There have been private and grassroots initiatives to preserve or display tangible and intangible Jewish heritage since 1991, but this effort suffered in the past from a lack of coordination, which means that many buildings, in particular all synagogues and yeshivas, but also cemeteries, are nowadays at risk of disappearing. Currently, it is thought that 5 synagogues need urgent restoration. The Slonim synagogue that you see here on the left, built in 1642, the Ruzhany synagogue built in the 18th century, Stolin synagogue in 1790, Oshmiany remodeled in 1902, and also Bychov. Some scholars and heritage practitioners are still active and are continuing to work in Belarus, and you can see the result on the right photograph. So the Valorishian Yeshiva has finally been reopened and refurbished in November 2024, but the conditions are very difficult for heritage practitioners. So really the Open Lab will create a safe space for researchers to conduct research, discuss difficult questions, including the Holocaust and anti-Semitism network on Jews in Belarus. It will also create a space to document and safeguard tangible and intangible heritage, to create a repository of sources available digitally. We will also stimulate creative industries and encourage artists to reinterpret and find inspiration in these sources. There will be also an educational section to educate about Jews and anti-Semitism. And we will hope to rescue heritage by virtually reconstructing the buildings that are now disappearing. So all of these projects, as we will show you, will be participative, using crowdsourcing to document and populate the website. So we want to increase citizens' participation and develop the civil society in Belarus. So I will now pass on to Maya, who will say more on the platform.
So as you can understand, transitioning to digital formats was a first step, but it also revealed opportunities to transcend traditional boundaries, leading us to rethink the very concept and role of a museum, approaching it primarily as a tool to confront these historical, societal, and geopolitical issues. We aimed to design not just a temporary solution, but an adaptive, dynamic, and multifunctional platform that could integrate with physical venues, educational programs, and cultural initiatives while being accessible to a broad audience worldwide, offering a meaningful and powerful connection to this heritage. So in the summer of 2022, together with Claire, we formalized the concept of a virtual platform and outlined the first prototype of this future virtual Belarusian Jewish museum, or the Open Lab, as we call it, highlighting its evolving and experimental nature. The concept includes 4 key sections, targeting different audiences and aspects of the mission to preserve, study, raise awareness, and valorize this heritage. Exhibition space, research repository, with digital collection, education center, and cultural hub. These sections are interconnected and guided by principles of crowdsourcing, public engagement, accessibility, academic verification. Incorporating advanced digital technologies, this platform blends digital and physical solutions, redefining the museum experience and serving as an interactive space for preserving and engaging with heritage. And Grigory will now tell you more about the project.
Yeah, thank you, Maya, and greetings, everyone. Now I'll provide you a closer look at the platform, and we will showcase some of what was already done and some of our work in progress. With a general idea and vision for the virtual museum in mind, we understood that a project of such a scale needed to be approached step by step. So we began with prototyping, creating an initial visualization that reflected the core concept of the platform. So we developed an initial version of a prototype funded through a variety of sources, including higher education innovation funding from the Southampton Institute for Arts and Humanities. And the primary goal of this prototype was to visualize the concept of the platform and its structure, how these 4 core elements of the project would come together. This prototype became a tool for communicating our vision and allowed us to attract both partners and supporters who could help us bring this project to life. And following this, we formed a strategic partnership with the tech company EPAM. This is one of the world's largest software service companies, originally founded in Belarus. And currently, we are in the early stages of developing an MVP. This is minimum viable product, which is simplified version of the platform that prioritizes core functionality to validate key concepts and gather user feedback. As part of this process, we created a second version of the prototype, focusing on the platform's functionality, visual language, interface, and user experience. So what you see now is the draft prototype we've created so far and that we're still working on. The initial scope for the MVP focuses on the shtetl theme, delving into the rich cultural and social phenomenon of Belarusian shtetls, and covering the period from the 18th to the 20th centuries, with the geographical emphasis on present-day Belarus. The MVP will have limited content, enough to fill the main sections and get the platform launched. From there, we'll gradually expand it and add in new content and projects step by step. So we will now take a closer look at each section, and after that, I'll present the first completed object of the digital exhibition, showcasing what is possible in this space and how the outlined principles have been put into action. So we start with the research and collection section, and I pass on to Claire to go on.
Thank you, Garish. So the aim of this section, which we keep changing the title of at the moment, it's research and collections. So the aim of this section is to create a centralized digital archive of primary sources on Belarusian Jewish history, and it will include digital copies of artifacts, documents, oral histories, audiovisual sources. It will also include bibliographies and links to scholarly or scientific works, and it will provide researchers, educators, and the public with an easy access to primary and secondary sources that have been verified by us, so that have been vetted by the scientific committee, and we will also provide some contextual information. The visitors will be able to browse the resources either through the thematic or chronological blocks, so you can see here on the left, exactly, thank you, or through a search tool. They will hopefully also be able to ask AI on the right. So in the first stage, we want to identify already available resources, already digitized sources, so to make an inventory of these sources, to tag them, and to make them available, link them to our website. So we will look at sources already digitized and available on the websites of museums, heritage institutions, or private websites. It will already be a huge task because these documents will be in a variety of languages: Yiddish, Hebrew, Belarusian, Russian, Polish, and we are thinking of ways of using artificial intelligence to make this work of tagging these documents more efficient. In the second stage, or simultaneously, if possible, we would also like to create our own collection. We are inviting contributions and donations of private documents, artifacts, or any sources on Belarusian Jewish history that again will be verified by our scientific committee and then scanned to be added to the platform. So we will really rely on the active participation of scholars and specialists across the world to fulfill this task of collecting, verifying, tagging the resources. And we are already working closely with museums and archives across different countries, creating a network approach to preservation. This section will also include a Facebook forum for scholars and early career scholars to encourage and support research and discussions about Belarusian Jewish history. It will therefore, this section address the fragmentation of Belarusian Jewish history, and we are really hoping to put back Belarus at the center of the history of Eastern European Jewry. So, and in the spirit of citizen science, we want this open lab to cultivate a sense of shared responsibility and shared ownership in this task of preserving the heritage. And this collection will constitute the basis for the cultural hub and the educational program. So the second section of the website will be the education center. At the moment, it's not yet created. It will be probably the last stage in the creation of the platform. It will offer resources for educators, for teachers, for all ages. And we will prepare lessons packs, courses based on our collection, but we will also add a playful element with games and digital resources. There will also be a participative element, as we want these educational resources and toolkits to be conceived and designed in collaboration with colleagues from different countries and to reflect different national curricula. We anticipate, therefore, that it will be the last stage of the project after we have populated the research section. And I will pass on to Maya to present the Cultural Hub.
Thank you. So the Cultural Hub. It is a space to foster collaborative artistic projects, events, and other cultural initiatives that reinterpret and creatively engage with Belarusian Jewish culture and history. Here we encourage artists and professionals from the creative industries to draw inspiration from and utilize the museum's resources and share their ideas while being a platform for showcasing these works. The Hub addresses the issue of barriers to accessing and exploring this heritage, which can often feel disconnected from contemporary life. Its aim is to breathe new life into this history, rethinking traditional narratives and stereotypes while transforming it into meaningful cultural expressions that resonate with contemporary audiences. Now we can move to the shop. One more section of the lab. It will offer a selection of projects developed across various sections of the platform alongside themed merchandise. This includes items like books, musical albums, the educational board games currently in development, which combines entertainment and learning about Belarusian Jewish heritage. The shop aims to support the platform's financial sustainability while popularizing this topic. And the last but not the least, exhibition space, and Grigori will tell about it.
Yeah, exhibition space is a multimedia and interactive environment where narratives are brought to life for a broad audience. It is a section designed to feature a variety of digital exhibition solutions and give the users a museum experience. This space aims to showcase Belarusian Jewish heritage through interactive and immersive digital tools, crafted using historical materials and advanced technologies. We aim to create exhibitions very adaptive, allowing them to be transformed into physical exhibition formats suitable for museums, cultural centers, and other venues. This dual-purpose approach bridges the gap between virtual and real-world heritage presentations, ensuring wider accessibility and usability. So the first exhibition, which is currently developing for the platform, is dedicated to Belarus shtetl and highlights virtual reconstruction of 4 important synagogues, each representing different architectural styles, periods, and geocultural influences that reflect the diversity of Belarusian shtetls. The exhibition includes the Wolpa synagogue, which was destroyed, and the great synagogues of Bychów, Slonim, and Ashmany still standing today, though empty and abandoned. Users will be able to virtually walk through the reconstructed synagogues, exploring their history, architecture, paintings, and overall context of Belarusian shtetls. So the first released object is a digital reconstructed Great Synagogue of Wolpa. And now I will delve deeper into the work behind this reconstruction and the process of bringing this historic site back to life in the digital world. So let's move to the presentation. Built in the first half of the 18th century for over 2 centuries, this synagogue was a center of religious and social life for the local Jewish community, and one of the most significant wooden synagogues in Eastern Europe. It is known for its stunning wooden architecture and intricate handcrafted decorations. However, during World War II, this unique building was completely destroyed by the forces of Nazi Germany. Fortunately, photographs, drawings, and the works of researchers from different generations have been preserved. And thanks to this, the architecture, interior, paintings, and decorations have been meticulously recreated by our work team of multidisciplinary professionals. The team comprises historian, artists, restorers, 3D modelers, IT developers, sound designers, and curators, each contributing their unique expertise to ensure the accuracy and authenticity of virtual reconstruction. At the core of our work lies research, archival materials, and expert insights. We gathered materials from a variety of sources, and this involved shifting through historical documents, photographs, blueprints, and texts. And we uncovered plenty of archival photos. These images, though often faded and fragmented, revealed intricate details of the synagogue's architecture and interior design. I would say reconstructing these elements digitally posed significant challenges. We had to piece together incomplete documents and interpret materials, often relying on expert consultations. We collaborated with prominent historians and experts in the Jewish heritage. Dr. Vladimir Levin, director of the Center for Jewish Art and Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and Dr. Sergei Kravtsov, who were guiding our research and verified visual and historical accuracy. We discovered that the synagogue underwent significant renovation in the 1920s, which transformed its interior. To capture this evolution, we decided to create 2 versions of the interior, one before and one after the renovations, allowing users to experience firsthand how the space changed over time. The next stage in our work after research involved our 3D modelers, who translated the historical data into the digital realm. Using advanced 3D modeler software, they recreated the synagogue's exterior and interior. We literally built the structure layer by layer. And simultaneously, our artists and restoration experts, led by Igor Knysh from the Bastalia Art Workshop in Belarus, worked on restoring original paintings and textures. And the heart of their work lay in the meticulous hand painting process. Each painting in the synagogue was carefully recreated by hand, and these artworks were then digitalized and transferred into the 3D environment. This handcrafted approach allowed us to achieve an exceptional level of visual realism. Our reconstructions stand out from typical digital projects due to the use of classic techniques in painting. It represents a more artistic and authentic approach, bringing a level of depth and craftsmanship that purely digital methods cannot achieve. A particular challenge was in reproducing the paintings in their naive style. Often, Eastern European synagogues in poorer Jewish communities were decorated by non-professional artists, and this gave the paintings a uniquely lively quality that is both charming and historically significant. And capturing this essence required a deep understanding of the artistic techniques and ability to replicate this simplicity that characterized such works. Once the 3D model and textures were completed, the VR engineers started developing our custom VR program to create an immersive experience in virtual reality. So we've created two modes of the virtual tour, the free tour and the guided tour. Free tour allows users to navigate the virtual synagogue at their own pace, exploring its architecture and artworks independently. In guided tour, users follow a settled path guided by a narration of multilingual audio guide. This mode includes detailed explanations of the historical and cultural significance of various elements in the synagogue. To enhance the immersive experience, we developed special sound design and interactive features. You can zoom in and examine every fresco and architectural detail using magnifying glass. You can switch between pre- and post-renovation interiors. Also, you can see the current site of the synagogue with a 360-degree view and to plunk into the place where the Great Synagogue once stood. This adds a profound emotional impact. After World War II, a memorial park was created there with a monument erected in honor of the natives of Wolpa who perished during the war, and there is no single word about the synagogue. Yeah, you can now see it on your screens. So parallel to the VR development, we adapted the experience for web platforms, and this adaptation made the virtual tour accessible to users without VR headsets. And additionally, a standalone VR application was developed. Our VR app has become the first ever piece of Belarusian heritage, as well as the first reconstructed synagogue on the Meta Store. Yeah, so I'll pass on to Maya, who will tell us about the next steps in our work.
Thank you, Grigory. So in the coming 2 years, we plan to expand the digital exhibition with 3 additional objects: the VR reconstruction of the Ashmani synagogue, followed by the Slonim and Bychov synagogues. Alongside this, we are developing a set of thematic, cultural, and educational projects and aim to start populating the digital collection by gathering and cataloging dispersed artifacts, documents, and oral histories. Releasing each project upon completion ensures steady progress and engagement. Taking incremental steps helps us maintain a consistent media presence, sustain fundraising efforts, and expand our network of partners managing risks. It also supports the promotion of the Future Museum and creates opportunities for cross-promotion of the initiatives, amplifying their reach and impact. So with that, I think that we have ended our presentation, and Claire will tell a few words.
Yeah, thank you, Maya. Just to finish here on the next steps, the next concrete step is also for us to apply for funding to be able to start populating the platform and the MVP that Grigory and Maya have described. And one possibility that we want to explore in the future is to test and improve artificial intelligence when we use it with minority languages as Yiddish and Belarusian, so that we can tag and organize the wealth of documents already digitized and available online quickly. The other area where we want to explore, in relation to artificial intelligence, and that relates to what is called citizen knowledge, is how to adapt generative artificial intelligence to our subject. So currently, if you search ChatGPT or another generative artificial intelligence tool and ask about Belarus, it comes up with almost only fake and inaccurate information because of the lack of reliable information on the web in general. So we hope that we could train generative AI to only use the verified information available on our platform to offer a reliable and easy to use source of information on Belarusian Jewish history for our visitors. Things go very quickly, as you know, and since we first brainstormed this idea a year ago, a lot has changed, and there are many challenges and issues associated with the use of artificial intelligence that we need to think about, including sustainability, environmental and ethical problems. However, I'm convinced that with the creativity and collective intelligence of the fantastic Belarusian Jewish Cultural Heritage Center team, that everything is possible. Thank you very much for your attention. We will put our contact information in the chat and the links to the different tools. And we are really curious to hear your comments and questions.
Thank you so much for that. That was such a wide-ranging presentation. It's clearly a huge project, but it's wonderful to see it coming to fruition here.